There we go. So thanks very much for joining. As I said, today is the 4th of 4. We had last week, we focused on the Alawai Canal and the lower watershed. I understand that because last week we met on Thursday instead of Friday, that some people may have missed, and sorry if I didn't emphasize that more previously, that we were changing that, that we had that date scheduled on a Thursday. But one thing we have today is we'll have continued discussions, and that will include opportunities for those of you who want to cover some things from last week if you weren't able to join then. So I wanted to also I just mentioned on the slide, just thought it was interesting to see, you know, what kind of engagement we've had. We've had over 100 people join us here in April in the first 3 workshops. That's in addition to 120 or so, or maybe more in the previous meetings that we've had. And I don't know how many unique, you know, that's total. We now have 223 management measures on our tracker available on the website. Something like 200 of those were suggested by the public. 168 comments submitted by Crowdsource Reporter, our GIS app, and dozens of emails to our email address. So we are pretty pleased so far with the passionate engagement that you guys have shown. Also, just wanted to remind everybody that all the records of these meetings are available on the website, honolulu.gov/Alawai. This is just a screenshot. If you go to that page, you know, all of these are links in the little table there. The links on the left go to the slides for the meetings, and then on the right, there's the recordings and the minutes. And the minutes also include actually the slides, miniatures of the slides, and also the chats as well. So unfortunately, the breakout discussions are not recorded. Those are not part of the recording, but there are notes on those in each of those. Yeah, thanks to you guys for putting your who you are in the chat. Everybody is welcome to do that. Wanted to highlight some things that we heard last week at the workshop on the lower watershed and the canal. A repeat from previous weeks. I mean, we continued to hear a lot of, you know, interest and engagement, obviously, which is great. Appreciation for the value of the measure tracker that's available on the website, as well as these workshops. That's really good to hear. We heard last week a lot of concern with risks associated with flood risk, right? So sea level rise, contamination from floodwaters, erosion, those kinds of things. So that was one of the things that we discussed in one of the breakout groups. There was continued concern also about the effects of new developments in the watershed. Last week, the Alapono pedestrian bridge was mentioned. You know, there have been some other ones mentioned in previous weeks. So that's a continued concern. And we also really appreciate when you guys inform us about these to make sure that we are including those in our analysis. Somebody asked if the Ala Moana area is included in the watershed in our analysis. Yes, it is. We talked about risk terminology, 100-year event versus 1% annual chance event, that kind of thing. So we clarified some of that. There were some additional measures suggested last week again. So that is why we have brought up our tracker now to 223 measures. So that is awesome. Some folks were just asking for clarification about our process, the technical screening process. And some people they are ready to see the conceptual drawings and visualizations, which is a little ahead of where we are at this stage of the game, but that is also very much appreciated. So today, Pardon me, we will have, again, Cindy and Eric will give us a brief presentation today that is going to sort of recap where we are at right now, and then also provide a look forward at what's going to happen, from now, the next few months. Then we'll have breakout discussions, as we've been doing during all of these sub-basin meetings, focused on management measures in any area of the watershed is fine. I've allocated 20 minutes to that on the slide. If that discussion is really active and we feel like we need more time, then I'm happy to extend that, because I want to make sure that you guys have the opportunity to contribute to that discussion on those technical management measures. But eventually I do want to bring it back to a large group discussion and a Q&A, just to make sure that we are all on the same page as we are coming out of this series of 4 workshops into sort of the next phase of the study. So today we have our usual suspects. Myself there in the middle is the lead facilitator. Eric and Cindy are our presenters. Kelly, Susan, and Ben will be helping us facilitate, and we have some discussants from the city as well on. So while Cindy and Eric give their presentation, if you could, if you have any questions or comments, just put them in the chat or hold them until the breakouts. Keep your audio on mute, and you can always email me if you have technical issues, or let me know in the chat. I think I don't see anyone on, oh yes, actually we do have a couple of people on phone only. So if you're on phone only and you're having any issues, you can, I think *6 is unmute, and you can let me know verbally if you need to. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Cindy to kick off our presentation.
Aloha and good afternoon, everyone. Excuse me, because I have a cough, and so I might have to take a little break here and there, but I'm just going to cover a few slides here. These slides are really going to cover the study process and where we are at within that process. And so I understand it's going to be a review for a lot of you who's been joining us on all of our previous meetings, but this is still critical information for those of you who may be newer and joining us for the first time. And so this particular slide really covers the study process and the progress that's been made to date. So within the study process, we first identify the problems and opportunities, inventory forecasts, then develop alternative plans, and then evaluate and compare plans. So if we were to start at the beginning of the study, we held our initial round of public workshops back in November 2021, and that's really where you helped us to identify the problems, opportunities, and solutions within the watershed. And then we went ahead and updated our technical data and models, and we met with various environmental and technical experts, which is really continuous throughout the study process. But we also held a site visit last month where the technical team gathered additional field data, which was used to update the hydrologic and hydraulic models. We then developed the management measure tracking spreadsheet to compile the list of management measures that were proposed and to provide a status of where those measures are within the screening process. And so right now, really where we're at in the screening process is that third arrow, where we're developing alternative plans. We have our full list of measures now, and we started screening through some of them. And so really what we've heard from the public in the past is this is the area really that they'd like to have that opportunity for additional input. And so that's really what we're doing here today, as well as the previous meetings, really to make sure that we have your input, your concerns, and feedback into this portion of the planning and development of the study. Next slide, please. Okay, so this slide is actually a continuation of the previous slide, but provides a bigger picture of where we're at within the context of the overall study. So we're currently at that big yellow arrow at our 4th sub-basin workshop to discuss management measure development and screening. And so there will be another series of meetings in the July timeframe, which Eric will go over in a little bit. But Following those meetings, we anticipate release of the draft report in November 2022, and then another series of meetings to discuss the tentatively selected plan that was identified in that draft report. And then we'll proceed to refining that tentatively selected plan with a feasibility level of analysis, and then come up with our final report in the spring of 2023. And so there'll be meetings before and after that release of that final report as well. Next slide, please. And so this slide here is really to highlight the use of our management measure tracking spreadsheet. And so with the input from all of you, the comments that you've been emailing to us or submitting via the project website, the comment form, or through our GIS tool, Crowdsource Reporter, we now have a total of 223 management measures listed there, and that's up 15 measures since last week. So once again, please go into the tracker, take a look at it. If you've submitted a proposal, make sure that it's captured in there properly. Or if you haven't commented yet, please be sure to submit your comments and input to the team. And so we'll provide links at the end of this presentation with where you can submit your comments to. And so the goal of this tracker really is to allow the public to see in real time like what it is we're working on, and to allow that opportunity for immediate feedback. And so as we go through this measure screening process, we'll continuously update the analysis within the tracker. And so just keep checking in, just keep checking the website and look what updates were made to the tracker. This is really our way to communicate with you. And so finally, I just wanted to make one last point for clarification, because the question was asked. These management measures are conceptual in nature. And so these are ideas that were proposed not only by us, but also by you, by your neighbors, by your elected officials, by outside agencies. So these measures listed here are really just conceptual in nature. They don't have any detailed level of design just yet. As we get through the screening process and start narrowing that field down, that's really when we can start getting into the weeds with more detailed designs. But I just want to make that clarification. All right, and now I'm going to hand it over to Eric, who's going to go into the screening process.
Great, thanks, Cindy. And again, I know that I see a lot of familiar faces and names on the list. I do see some names of folks that may have not been in meetings. And so again, it's important for us to kind of run through all of this one more time, just for everybody that may not have been on the previous meetings. And I do think that this slide kind of sets us up well for what are the next steps, right? So to this stage of the process, we've been undergoing 2 separate iterations of management measure screening. So again, management measures are those actions or specific things that we can do throughout the watershed to reduce flood risk. In that first iteration, we really screened based off of 2 very broad and general criteria. One is it within the study authority, meaning do we have the authority to execute that measure within the study that we have? The second is technical feasibility. And really with this, it's not some subjective determination by the team. We're really using existing data and the conditions on the ground, as well as up-to-date engineering standards and best practices to make that call. And so again, if there's any indication that it could be technically feasible, it moves forward. So again, just very high level. The second iteration is actually ongoing, and I know in the previous meetings there were a lot of measures that were still under consideration, and so it's obviously this is a process. It's an iterative process, and it takes time. And so the second iteration will continue to be ongoing for the next while. And again, as Cindy just mentioned on the previous slide, we're going to continue, hopefully weekly to update the management measure tracker spreadsheet with results of that week. And so you continually check back and look at that spreadsheet so you can see kind of where we are in our analyses and the decisions that have been made and why those decisions have been made. So iteration 2, we start drilling down a little bit more. And we use different screening criteria. So now we're starting to talk about effectiveness. So how well will it reduce flood risk or economic damages? Efficiency. So how cost effective will it be? And we're also considering environmental considerations as well. And so again, it's important to note that we're using existing data. So again, this isn't the first time this area has been studied. We came into this project with great models and great existing data. And so we've been able to utilize things like existing known water volumes. So how much water would we have to store or address in a specific area to reduce flood risk? And so that ties into effectiveness. We understand under a range of events. So again, kind of the 2-year flood to the 500-year flood, what are the expected damages? Because again, that's information that was derived through previous iterations. And so we can understand that. And so that kind of gets it to, effectiveness as well as efficiency. So, is it going to be cost effective? Are the benefits going to, outweigh the costs of the project? And we can also look at, engineering practices and previous iterations of studies to get, high level costs for these things to kind of help focus that efficiency discussion as well. And so, we've talked a lot about during previous meetings about kind of the tiering criteria that we're using to help us focus our analyses. And so we're using these second iteration screening criteria to really put measures in, tiers. So tier 1 means it's the highest analytical priority for us because the results of that screening measure could, ultimately screen out or move forward other measures as well. And I always use the example of storage. So we know and we have a good sense of like the largest storage area in one of the subbasins, and we model that, and it does not get us the storage that we need, then we know that we could screen some maybe smaller storage areas. It just gives us a benchmark with which we can start screening other measures as well. And so again, the tiering criteria are not some indication of what we believe to be the most likely measures to move forward or what we believe to be the highest priority measures within the watershed. It's simply an analytical tool that allows us to be most efficient and effective with how we analyze everything. Again, all measures will be assessed, just kind of the order at which they are assessed. So again, we're full on in the second iteration still, and that's been ongoing since these meetings have started. So type the next slide. So where does that lead us from here? So, within the next 2 months, May and June of this year, we're really going to finalize that screening. So again, we're going to be utilizing our technical tools, the models that have now been completed to really, finalize the screening for a lot of these measures. And once that's completed, we're going to start combining measures into what we call a focused array of basin-wide alternatives. So again, we've been looking at individual measures throughout the watershed, but we know that these measures are going to have to function as a single unit right throughout the watershed to reduce flood risk everywhere. And so we're going to do that. We're going to combine them together. And I want to note that kind of as the screening process is an iterative process, meaning we kind of go through it in iterations to help focus analyses, management measure development is also, or alternative development is also an iterative process. So we'll start with a larger array, and we'll kind of distill that down into a smaller number of alternatives that are more focused and direct and effective in terms of reducing flood risk. And it's ultimately important to know that, we're formulating these measures essentially to meet our study objectives. And I've put the objectives again here at the bottom of this slide just as a reminder, right? So the first objective is to reduce life and safety risk associated with inundation of structures and infrastructure, as well as, and that includes roadways. Reduction of economic damages associated with inundation of structures and infrastructure, and then reduce the economic impact associated with destruction of commerce and tourism. So those are our 3 big objectives, and we'll be formulating our alternatives to meet those objectives. And, we've done a lot of talking as a group about how, how we can keep the community engaged throughout this process, right? And seeing the positive response to the management measure tracker, we're going to create, our hope is to create something similar. I'm going to call it a plan formulation tracker, where you will be able to see kind of how these measures are being combined and the reasoning that they're being combined in the way that they are. Again, and so it's going, at that point, it will give you something to look at and something to provide comments and feedback on via the website. So again, we're going to be creating that, as soon as we start kind of that plan formulation part of the study process. So next slide, please, Tyson. So, there's also, so those are our technical next steps, but what about the engagement next steps? So again, our next public meeting is in July, so just a few months away. The goal of that meeting, and so it's going to be a series of in-person and virtual meetings. That's the goal right now, barring any, I understand that, the COVID situation is unknown all the time, and so we're going to kind of play that by ear, but our current hope is to hold, in-person and virtual meetings so that there are multiple forums and platforms for people to join and interact with us. But the goal is essentially to get feedback and discuss the focused array of alternatives. So again, we'll have kind of that array, that list of alternatives that we have. And again, those are combinations of measures throughout the watershed that you will have been able to provide input and feedback on in terms of their development through that plan formulation tracker. So we'll discuss the progress, revisit the schedule. We'll provide hopefully some additional information on measures that were screened and why, again, kind of a continuation of this discussion, but then ultimately how and why they were formulated, in terms of how they're combined into those alternatives. And we want your feedback on those alternatives and measures, right? Because that's clearly important. And then also, maybe you can help us identify some secondary impact of some of those alternatives that maybe we hadn't considered, right? So we have our understanding of what we think they'll do, and then you might come back with some additional insight that we hadn't thought about. And so again, we're going to want to get input and comments and feedback on that array of alternatives. But until then, right, there's going to be continuous engagement opportunities via the website. Again, the management measure tracker, that spreadsheet will be updated continuously. We're going to be creating that plan formulation tracker that I mentioned. But you can also sign up for those website notifications. So anytime we update the website, we can send out a notification if you sign up for that on the website. So go in and do that. And then there's also the comment form on the website. So you go in and look at the tracker and you want to submit a comment, with the website comment form is right there for you to do that. And so there are continuous opportunities for you to engage over the next month or two, couple months until we have those July workshops. So next slide. Oh, that's you. All right, I'm done.
Right on. This is starting to be old hat for you by now. So we're going to go into our discussion groups, and I will, as I've done most of the week so far, I'll do this by random assignment. So we're going to have 2 discussion groups, and I want to emphasize that. Actually, before I do this, let's look at our questions. But I want to emphasize that, as Eric was just saying, our next planned workshop meeting will be in July. So while today is not, like your last chance to engage with us, because we have the website and we have the email and all of those things. So we will definitely be, engaged with you, and hope you will be with us through the next few months. Today is, of course, the last planned meeting until then. So I really want to make sure that we take advantage of this opportunity. If you have any more unanswered questions about any of the measures that we've mentioned, or maybe that we haven't mentioned, whether they've been assessed or not assessed, whatever it is, if you've got questions or comments, please raise them today. Is there anything, even though we've just been adding measures as late as last week, if you still have additional suggestions, please make them. And just in general, if there's anything that's new that we haven't heard yet that we really need to know, now's the time to let us know. So really appreciate your input. Okay, so here we go. We're going to do the breakouts. And then, like I said, roughly 20 minutes or so, might be a little bit longer if this discussion really requires it. There we go, filtering in. Okay. All right, Ben, take it away. I will see you in a bit.
Will do. Have fun.
Thanks.
Greetings, aloha, everybody on the phone, and or if for some reason you haven't gotten assigned to a breakout room. My name's Ben Rader. I'm a project manager and facilitator with Army Corps based here in Honolulu. So happy to be your host today. Please don't hesitate to come off of mute. I want to make sure that you want to be in the main room here. And if so, happy to discuss. I also can help get you to a room if you desire that, and so you can be part of the larger discussion. So let's just see where our folks are at. Dawn, Alan, and then I have a couple phone numbers here that I can't tell who it is. So don't be shy. Let me know your situation, and we can discuss.
Hey, Benjamin, I'm going to join breakout session 2 just right now.
Okay, so you can do that?
Yeah, I can do that. Yep.
Okay, perfect.
Thanks.
See ya. I got a few other people here.
This is Alan Chin. I wanted to join breakout session 2.
Okay. Would you like help doing that?
Sure.
Okay, let me see what I can do here. It's interesting because I see you, Mr. Chin, in the participant list, but when I go to the breakout stuff, I don't see you in there. That's what's interesting to me. Oh, I got you. Okay, wait 1 second here. But also you could, I'll talk you through it as I look for it on my functionality, but in the top right corner, under you should, or actually let's start with the bottom right corner of your WebEx. There should be a button called participants. And if you click
Yeah,
on,
I've
yep,
got on.
yep. And then under participants, it'll move you to a window on the top. There's a main meeting and then a breakout sessions one. You see that?
It said I'm assigned to breakout session #1.
Okay. And do you have a little link, a join link?
Yep.
Yep. And if you click that, what happens?
How
Nothing?
how do I get to session 2?
Oh,
Have a
so you
breakout.
should be able to do the same thing, and there should be a link next to session 2 and hit that. Because, well, right now it's interesting because you're not actually part of either. So, and I'm trying to work it on my end. So let me see here. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. Sometimes WebEx is not our friend because you're not popping up. For some reason, you're like an undetected individual. You're not
Yeah, I don't
in
know
the
why.
main room. If you really wanted to, you could try to log in and log out and see if that persists. But like I said, we can get it into our own discussion here. But I would, my heart goes out because I feel like the more meaty conversations are going on in the breakout room. So I would recommend logging in and logging out. But
Okay.
how about Milvia or anybody on the phone lines there? Milvia, you're also coming up as unidentified for some reason, and I'm trying to help you, but I can't. Based off of my settings, I don't see you there. And anybody on the phone as well. If you'd like to, or if you can't. Okay, aloha, Milvia. Sorry, I don't know exactly what your chat means there, but I'm happy that you found the chat functionality. Folks on the phone as well. If you are able to find the chat button, or if not, Councilman Say. Oh, okay. Here we go. Well, our participants list here in the main room is becoming slimmer and slimmer. I'm left with phone people. Phone people, if you would like to come off of mute, and if you can't do that, well, you don't want to just talk to talk. So, I will give you a few minutes here to in some way communicate with me, and then I will join a breakout session. Alan's back. Okay, I'm gonna see if I can. Yes, Alan. I'm gonna send you to room 2 if that's okay.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, you should be on your way.
Thank you.
And then my friend with the 808 number, would you like to come off of mute and chat, or perhaps you just wanted to listen, but unfortunately the WebEx platform won't let you come in here to a breakout room when you're just on the phone. So sorry about that. Hey, Sydney. Hey, Warren. Let me know if you want to move to a breakout room if you're having problems doing that, or if you wanted to come hang in the lounge, that's fine too.
I'd like to move to a breakout move. I got kicked out before. They wouldn't let me move.
Interesting. Do you have a particular breakout room you'd like to go to, session 1 or session 2?
I was assigned to 2. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
Thank
I
you.
will move you along. Have a great one.
Thank you.
Is this same thing for you? Did you get kicked out somehow? I'm going to move you to session 1 if that's okay. Unless you tell me otherwise, but here you go.
Yeah, Ben, it won't let me move anywhere when I click on breakout sessions, so can you send me to one also, please?
Yeah, for sure. Oh, Rhiannon, sorry to hear, I can hear your struggle there, so I hope you get better soon. I'm moving you right now. Hey, Ken and Warren, I'm just coming back to see. Warren, I see you keep popping in here, so I'm not sure if WebEx is just giving you a hassle. here, but I can try again to move you to a breakout session. Ken as well. Let me know if you need assistance. I'm not sure why you all ended up in the main room, but I'm happy to discuss with you, and or we'll get you to a breakout room if you desire. Hey, Steve. Not sure. Hey, Beverly. We're currently in. Oh, I see. Because I think. Hey, Beverly. We're currently in breakout rooms, and I could happily move you to one if you so desire. Would that be good for you? Are you able to come off mute? Or you can stay in the main room and you and I can have a conversation. Either way. I tried to move you to a breakout room, Beverly. So hopefully that works for you. You'll probably get a prompt somewhere saying, would you like to join in? I think you have to accept. Warren, same for you. I did move you, so I think you just have to accept the invite. Or perhaps you're multitasking and that's fine too.
All right, welcome everybody. Welcome back to the main room. Just going to wait. There's still a few people. Still a few people in breakout 2. It looks like breakout 1 has come back first. Okay.
So
There we go. All right. Welcome everyone. Welcome back. That was really fantastic discussion. It sounded like the other group as well was having a good discussion. So I did not want to break that up too early because this is really the time to talk about it. But now we are all back in the same room, and I just want to make sure, that we have a chance to review and to, as a large group, if there are any other questions that you want to ask, now's the time to do it. I'm going to jump ahead. There we go. What else do we need to know or consider for our analysis and planning? And also, what questions do you have about process, schedule, next steps, or how to stay engaged? I'm just going to repeat this slide that Eric showed us earlier. We've got the workshops coming up in July. Of course, we haven't planned the details yet, but we're thinking probably 2 of those, perhaps hybrid, perhaps in person, perhaps maybe some combination of in person and virtual. We're not sure yet, and of course, it will depend somewhat on the pandemic. But in any case, we will have those in July, and meanwhile, you can keep up to date on the website, keep checking the tracker, and send us input by email as well. So we're still going to be here before July. So anyway, I just wanted to recap that. But now I want to open it up to the floor. So if you guys have any questions about the process or anything else on the technical side of things, everything is fair game. And maybe actually to sort of spur things a little bit, Eric, do you want to maybe mention a couple highlights from y'all's discussion?
I mean, we had a lot of great discussion actually, and what I'll do is I'll pass the ball back to Cindy because she was taking phenomenal notes on all of that. I was mostly answering questions, but I know Cindy took great notes.
That's great. Cindy, do you want to?
Yeah, and so our group is somewhat, we had a lot of discussion, a lot of questions in the chat. And so I think there's a lot of clarifications that were made. There seems to be a consensus that flood was or not preferred. I think there needs to be some clarification that, everything that we consider, we do have to look at the environmental impacts of it, whether it's a tunnel or whether it's a second outlet to the canal. We have to look at the impacts not only to the marine life in that specific area, but also to the nearshore environment, such as a coral reef, which is really our first line of defense when it comes down to coastal storm surge, right? So we really have to work with the resource agencies with any measure that does pass through screening and is in the final array. We really have to work with them and get their feedback and mitigation measures just to ensure that whatever measures are being proposed are environmentally acceptable. I think that was my biggest takeaway. I think there's a lot of a lot of these measures we've already listed in the tracker, and just kind of rehashing some of those.
Okay. I see there's a hand up. Thank you. It looks like Michelle Matson, you had your hand up. Is that right?
I did. Thank you. I just have a quick question about the chat. are there going to be copies of the chats available as well?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, we will. Those are included in the notes for each meeting. Yeah, and Cindy, I think, we had some similar discussions talking about making sure that, we were talking about integrated water resources management and how do we make sure that what we do for flood risk management doesn't screw things up in terms of the environment or some other, need and important aspect of the health of the watershed. I think, one thing that I said is that I would be wonderful if we had sort of first like a big watershed study and then we had, combination of flood risk and, environmental restoration, other studies and stuff like that. That's not really what we have, but because we are aware of those issues, in part because we've had these discussions with the community, we can account for that in our plan formulation of the measures. Eric, Cindy, anything else you wanted to add, or Kelly? Any other folks have? Oh, I see. Luciano, looks like put your hand up.
Luciano, okay. Well,
Yes, sir.
a general question. Have you seen the evaluative framework that the Alavai collaborative group developed? Try to look if the measure of success are good or bad in Hawaii by looking certain category for analysis. Have you seen that framework? It looks like a very nice approach for broad sectorial analysis for Hawaii next 50 years. But I'm not very sure that that framework is useful to sort out the specific measure that we have in this watershed. I have the feeling that there is a need to develop something else down the line to that you have to do to evaluate and eliminate or combine this measure. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I think that you're referring to the work that Stantec did for that group, if I remember correctly. Is that right?
For the Hawaii watershed collaboration. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, for that group, they had Stantec do a sort of a feasibility study, watershed study. So, and I don't know, Kelly, if you want to chime in, but I believe that we have been talking to them about, there's been information exchange on that.
Yeah, we had a meeting yesterday. I forget what day it is. And it was Stantec, the Army Corps, Hawaii Green Growth, and the Hawaii community. So it was a really, really great conversation. So it was great information sharing. We are collaborating with them, and we're all coordinating. So we all have the same end goal, right? So yeah, we've been in talks with them.
Thank you. I have another thing, some more technical. Can I raise it? It pertains to the Manoa Palolo Canal and Waikiki. When the flood comes, we'll go straight to Waikiki, in the middle of Waikiki, from the Manoa Palolo Canal. Is kind of a bullet in a gun going through, particularly if there is a wall or a berm that protect Iolani School and Alavai Elementary School, a protection that I advocate, protection of Iolani School and Alava Elementary School and Club 100 of the famous Japanese battalion that is located there, including my apartment building, to be transparent. So while I feel that the protection of the Moilili side is crucial, in order not to have the water coming down too strong against the Waikiki and flood Waikiki in the middle, it is very important, I feel, that intakes are created so the water, the flood water, really go into the Alavai golf course watershed that becomes the entire, I believe the entire Alavai golf course should be used as a detention basin, as you are already rightly considering. But somehow I like to see how the design is done, that the water will really go into the golf course and not into Waikiki and not into Moiliili. It's really the design of that assure that the solution is proper. Why I'm telling this? Because the early plan of the Army Corps actually said in the appendices, said that Alavai Elementary School and Yolani School could be just flooded. There was no, they were not important to be protected. And that was very wrong. And the reason I thought that was not stated was that protecting Yolani School would have exacerbated the strength of the water going straight down to Waikiki. So I hope that you will seriously look at the measure to protect Yolani School, Alava Elementary School, and all the walk-up apartments that are over there by directing the water, by creating the berm to protect the Moili side and have the water in two places along the Manoa Palolo Canal going into the Alavai golf course. And the Alavai course should be all used for water retention and cleanup basin and not used for other purpose. So it's very interesting to know if you do this, how much you mitigate a certain kind of flood.
Gotcha. Thank you so much. Appreciate that very much, Luciano. I just want to note that we are a little over time. I think that's okay because this is, again, the 4th of 4, and I want to make sure that we really have a chance to hear the things we need to hear from you. So we can go a few more minutes. Kelly, I don't know, do you want to respond to any of the technical issues that Luciano just mentioned? Or Eric?
So I heard that, just to reiterate what he said, that the angle that the water's coming down in, it's just shooting down right at Waikiki to protect the schools in the area and to utilize the golf course to kind of redirect and divert. I think those are all in the tracker. Those are all very good points. I can't really speak more to what he already put into it. So just validating what he said.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, and certainly we will take that very seriously, as you said. Mike Elhoff, you have your hand raised? You may be on mute.
Right. I had proposed shifting a driving range down towards the confluent so that it could be used and easily cleaned, not easily, but cleaned after a big storm without completely compromising the functionality of the golf course because I think it's going to be a big battle. But I do agree the golf course, Eli School, LOI Elementary, all used to be wetlands. And we have to look back at history and, you know, the Army Corps is amazing at trying to fix what humans have done to our urban environments. So that's the challenge is, you know, how do we deal with what the island used to do and protect the reefs? So the idea is that, and I mentioned a couple of things on the breakout session, and one thing I didn't mention was detention. My thing is root cause, and let's stop the debris if we can. We're never going to stop it, but we can reduce it. And then what we can't reduce, let's catch it as much as we can before it ends up on the coral reef. So I completely agree about detention, and it's a tricky issue. But yeah, maybe strategically, and I know Army Corps has already looked at the golf course quite a bit, so I support that effort. And then just reducing the need for dredging by reducing debris. And then when dredging is done, do it properly to the proper depth and fix those walls, and then you can get the water out of there quicker. So thank you.
Thanks, Mike. All right. Appreciate that very much. And I see some good stuff in the chat as usual. You guys are great. Last call for any comments or questions. All right. Again, thanks to everybody. I will repeat for those who were in the other discussion group. One thing that I mentioned to my group is that one of the reasons that I joined the Corps of Engineers and took this job was that I thought that maybe if I could move the needle a little bit and get this agency to engage more with communities and listen more to communities, then maybe I will have done some good in this world. So this has been very rewarding for me to work on this project and to work with all of you in this community, to see your passion and really deep knowledge that so many of you have on these issues. So it's been great, and I'm looking forward to continuing to doing that. So please stay engaged. There we go. Again, just want to remind you of the ways that you can stay engaged. We've got a few more days left with Crowdsource Reporter up. If you want to use that GIS app, you can email us there, aloi@honolulu.gov. You can, again, please continue to check the website on a regular basis, particularly that management measure and alternative plan tracker that Eric described. And again, I can't thank you enough. Mahalo.
Thanks, everybody.